Megan, thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you for having me.
of course. So we were talking a little bit before this. You've lived in Portland your whole life.
Born and raised, Best
Uh-huh.
Kaiser Hospital out in North Portland.
Great. And then you kind of have lived in the Southeast neighborhood for the most part.
Primarily Southeast, Mount Tabor area, out in the Gorge when I was in elementary school, out in Eagle Creek area, elementary school. But
Okay,
yeah,
yeah.
this general area my entire life.
Cool.
Yeah.
What was high school like for you? What kind of kid
High
were you in high
school
school?
was really short.
Really short.
Really
Okay.
short. My mom decided to send me to Northeast Portland for high school because I was getting in with the wrong crowd
Okay.
for like middle school. You know, she wanted to break my friends up,
Mhm.
my friend group up. And so she sent me to Madison High School in Northeast Portland with my cousin, who I'm biracial. I'm half black, half white.
Mhm.
So, but I was raised by a very white hippie biker mom. And she didn't like my white hippie friends for some reason in middle school. Like that was the wrong crowd. So she sent me to go live with my black family in high school. Well, I didn't fit in. I just didn't fit in.
Mhm.
I tried really hard. I worked all summer between 8th and 9th grade, made $400, bought a whole new wardrobe, bought all the jewelry, all the shoes, like everything to fit in this new high school. And I tried for 2 months, sat with my cousin every lunch. Like I hung out with my cousin who was raised by a black family. And so like she had the language. I don't sound like a black person, like the stereotypical black person, excuse me. Don't sound like a stereotypical black person. But after 2 months of just misery, like not fitting in, I found the stoners out in the park, and then I found my home. And I finished my freshman year, but by the time summer hit, I was doing harder drugs.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Those stoners were also doing like LSD, which I had never done before, and so that was a new experience that derailed my high school. So by 2 months into sophomore year, that I was kicked out.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then, did you end up just getting a GED?
Yeah,
or-
I got
Oh,
my
see.
GED. I got my GED by 93 and was in college by 94.
Oh, okay.
So I was very educational focused. I've always been very educational focused. Like education in me was, I've always succeeded in elementary and middle school. I was in the TAG program, the Talented
Okay.
and Gifted program,
Oh.
which like they take you out of regular school and put you in higher academic or like drama or I guess it's academic or what's the other term that they use for that? Like extracurricular classes that add on to your regular academic standard state run classes so that you're getting, like I did architecture and French classes instead of algebra because I had already passed all my algebra classes in fifth grade. I had
Oh, wow.
surpassed all of those by the time I had hit fifth grade.
Yeah.
I had
yeah,
already
wow.
done all of those in fourth grade. So I got to skip all of those and do other things.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it was, so it was kind of LSD in 10th grade that sort of.
Yeah, it was
derailed
LSD.
things.
It was LSD. I found a whole new experience.
Yeah.
And it took me places that I had never thought existed. So yeah, it was LSD. I started writing papers. My high school papers were on LSD.
I see. Okay.
Like
yeah.
it really took me places that I didn't know existed. I mean, it broadened my horizons, which is what it's supposed to do.
Right. Yeah.
But
yeah.
the school didn't appreciate that.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
So it didn't necessarily come from a place of being found on LSD by the school or with it. It came
No,
from a place
it just
of...
it interrupted their ideals of my education. It's like I was coming to school on LSD, which isn't okay.
Yeah.
And doing my classes and getting all my work done, but I was still on drugs.
Yeah.
And that's what was the problem.
I see. Interesting.
So they were like, you need to go get an evaluation done, or you can't come back to school.
Oh, okay.
And so I did that evaluation, and the evaluation recommended drug treatment. And I just wasn't, at that time, I was 13 and thought that I knew everything. Of course, every
Yeah, of
13-year-old
course,
does. And I went to that drug treatment program for one day. It was the DePaul Youth Center over in Northeast, off of Northeast 42nd.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I went for one day and one night and said, this is just not for me. And so I journeyed on.
Okay. And then what was that like with, you were living with your Black family, you said at the time?
By then, I had moved home to my mom.
Okay.
The family that I was living with in Northeast Portland, that was my grandfather and his wife and their adopted children. And I only lived there for a very short period of time, just for like the summer and a year, my freshman year. And then once I had started on LSD, like I went back to my mom. Because they weren't having that at all. They just weren't. My cousin, so I won't get into this because it's really confusing, but my family in Northeast Portland is a combination family of cousins and grandpa and other cousins, and it's just we're all related.
Gotcha.
We're just all related in a different, it's just weird. So, but my cousin, who I was living with at my grandpa's house, was very straight-lined, just no drugs whatsoever. And so once she found out, she sent me right back to my mom's. But at my mom's, my mom was not having this hallucinogenics either.
Oh, okay.
And she set a very fine line about that as well. She said, you can drink in my house, you can smoke pot in my house, but when it comes to hallucinogenics, that's not going to happen here. And so I eventually ran away from home.
I see, okay.
When I was about 15, I ran away from home and ended up,
wow,
that was loud. Ended up on the streets of downtown Portland.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, at 15.
At 15 in the streets of downtown Portland.
Yeah.
Wow, so how long did that last?
That lasted off and on until I was about 20.
Okay.
Yeah, off and on until I was about 20. I had a baby in the middle, so I was off for a little bit. I went back to my mom's. Excuse me. I went back to my mom's for a very short period of time. I stayed with her. She got me my own apartment in the property that she was managing. So I had my own apartment for about 5 months. And then one of my street brothers that I let stay over at my house apartment brought methamphetamine over.
Okay.
And that was in 93. A lot happened in 93. Got my GED, had my baby. Well, my son was born in December of 92, so 93 was, brand new baby, first apartment ever. Very lonely because I was in my first apartment ever with this brand new baby at 16 years old. Didn't know what the heck I was doing.
Yeah.
But so I had friends coming to visit me because I was lonely. And one of my street brothers brought meth over. Back then it was crank, totally different animal than what they have on the streets now. And I tried it. I did one line, and it just took me away. Yeah, took me away. So that's why I only had my apartment for about 5 months, because my mom came to me and she said, Megan, I see that you're struggling, and I want to make you an offer. And she said, I want to offer to take your baby, and you can give up everything you have. Give up your apartment, give up all your furniture, everything you have here, and just go live on the streets again. And what she was trying to do was scare me.
Yeah.
That's what her goal was to scare me straight. But what I did, because back then, and even now, I guess, for these kids that are trying it for the first time, the drug is so powerful that it lets you give up everything you love.
Mm-hmm.
And I did. I gave up everything. Excuse me.
No, it's okay.
So that was 93. I stayed on the streets all summer that summer, and then I went back to my mom's. My mom had this bouncing baby boy, and she called me, or I called home one day for some reason. Like, my mom and I are really connected, like emotionally, spiritually connected. We're really connected. We always have been. And one day I just felt like I needed to call my mom. And so I called my mom, and she asked me, she said, "Megan, are you ready to come home yet?" And I guess she had just had enough of this little bouncing baby boy. And I said, "Okay, Mom." And so I came home, and I stayed home for like 3 or 4 months with her and took care of my son and stuff. And then I got another apartment, and I was staying clean. And then another realization came to me, was another way to do meth. And I started shooting it. And that was 94. Like, it had a whole year, well, like 9 months had gone by between the time I went home and the time that I started shooting it. But I started shooting it, and that took my life away. I shot methamphetamine for 20 years.
Wow.
For 20 years. I gave up everything for 20 years. I've had 5 children, and I lost all of them. I tried really hard not to,
Yeah.
but each attempt, I made it a little bit further in the process. I stayed clean a little bit longer. I gained a little bit more skills. I grew up a little bit more. But in the end, man, that needle is just more powerful. And it's not just an addiction to the drug, but it's an addiction to the whole process of getting loaded for me and for a lot of people that I know. It's not just the drugs, it's the whole life, There's definitely been times that I've been a lot lower in my life, like lower to the ground, lower in the gutter, than I have been at other times. And there's definitely been times that I've been a lot higher too. Not like high on drugs, but just high on life, with friends and family that love and care for me. I don't know. There's a lot I could tell you about drug stories, but I don't want to go there.
Yeah.
Other than that, geez, I have, like I said, I've given birth to 5 kids, but I have 6.
Okay.
I have 6 wonderful kids. My oldest is 31. She is transgender female. And then I have 3 27-year-olds. I have 27-year-old twins and a 27-year-old stepson. And they are all just like the most brilliant, vibrant, enthusiastic people I've ever met. My 27-year-old stepson is a self-made mechanic. I don't know how he did it, but when I met him when he was 12, he was like this very timid, I won't say insecure, because he wasn't insecure. He was just like unsure. Unsure of the world yet. You know what I mean? Like a young man unsure of what was going to happen to him yet in the world. And now he is just like taking control and taking the bull by the horns, and he's like making headway at 27. And I'm so proud of him. Like he amazes me every day. Every time I speak with him, he amazes me from where he came from to where he is now. He amazes me, and I hope he sees this. My girls too, because they're miracles. They are miracles. I couldn't get clean when I was pregnant with them. I was like 20 years old and shooting dope and didn't know I was pregnant when I first got pregnant with them, working on a construction site as a top hand for a sewer pipe laying crew, right? I was working and I got pregnant and didn't have a clue I was pregnant for like 3 months. And then I went to the doctor and they're like, "Oh yeah, by the way, you're having twins." I was like, "What?" And couldn't stop getting loaded. I stopped for like 2 months in the beginning. And then like I just couldn't stop. Their dad showed up and I started using and I couldn't stop. And I asked, the one smart thing I did in that pregnancy was ask for a specific doctor that I knew that was, because with twins you have to have a doctor, you can't have a midwife. And so I asked for this one doctor that I knew worked in a treatment program, like an alcohol and drug treatment program. And so that put me in her treatment program. And it just defaulted me into her treatment program up at OHSU. And so like everybody around me was in treatment. And by the time I had them, I had 30 days clean. And I stayed clean for like a year after I had them. So that was like the beginning of my recovery life. You know what I mean? That was like the opening door to me growing up finally, was with those two girls. Because I tried with my son, I tried with my oldest son, and I didn't, like my brain wasn't clicking yet with recovery. Like I really tried. I had 13 months clean after I had him. And, but I hadn't started doing meth yet. It was just LSD and marijuana. And I think that's why I didn't take it seriously, because it's just pot.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just pot. I'm not doing anything bad, you know? But it is like, I wasn't an adult yet, because it was just pot. You know, I wasn't taking anything seriously yet until I had my girls and I had lived a harder life. But my two youngest are going to be 21 and 18 next month. No, in 2 months. So they're 17 and 20 right now. And they are the most spectacular people I've ever met in my entire life. They have the biggest imaginations. Like when they were little, I used to love dinner time because they would tell me all their stories from what had happened that day. And they would just talk and talk and talk and talk. And I could just sit there and not have to say a word, because they would just tell me everything. And it was so fascinating and so just, I wish that I could have, like have them with paintbrushes and just paint their day. Because they would have been giving me like beautiful murals. You know what I mean? Like they were just fascinating little people. And I lost them too, but they are back. Like all my kids are back in my life now today, which is wonderful. I'm blessed. I'm extremely blessed because all 6 of my kids are back in my life today. It's taken a lot. It's taken a lot of patience on my part to just sit on my hands and wait for time to go by. But I've also had to do a lot of work on myself, a lot of counseling, a lot of alcohol and drug programming, a lot of working with my mom. My mom and I have a great relationship today, which we didn't used to have. In the middle of my addiction, my mom quit talking to me, which broke my heart. Like when I first met my husband, there was like 2 years where every time I'd call her, she'd say, well, are you clean yet? And if I said no, she'd just hang up the phone. You know, which, man, that drove me crazy. Man, that drove me absolutely crazy. I'd go into fits of rages after that would happen and just want to smash stuff. It was just horrible. It was a horrible feeling. And in the past few years, I've been able to express that to her. Like, because she asked me, she said, why do you lie to me? This was like 3 years ago. Why do you lie to me about using at all? And I told her, I said, because this is what you used to do to me. And she broke down crying and she said, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And I will never do that to you again. You know, I was like, even as adult parents, we can inflict pain on our children. Yeah. You know, we have to be aware of our actions, even as adults to adults, not just as parents to children. But I'm vividly aware of that in my life today. I caught it.
When did you get clean, and how long have you been clean?
Well, I still smoke marijuana.
Okay.
I still drink on occasion. The meth has faded in and out since I came back to Portland. So let me backtrack. I left Portland in 1999.
Okay.
To move to Spokane. At that point, I had 3.5 years clean. I relapsed in Spokane, had a horrible relapse in Spokane. That's when I lost my twins when they were about 5 years old, 4.5, 5 years old. They were adopted to a family. That relapse, like that loss of those girls, like they were supposed to be my savings grace. Like this was going to be it. I was going to have these twins and I was going to like prove to everybody that I could be the best mom in the world, right? Well, I lost them. And so I went on a dive into the depths of oblivion, right? Because I didn't want to exist anymore. I wasn't going to kill myself. That's not a possibility for me personally. But I was just seeking oblivion, and I found that. I started shooting heroin, which I had swore I would never ever do in my life. But I dated this man who was a heroin addict, and he gave me my first hit up in Spokane. And like 2 months later, 2.5 months later, I met this other man who is now my life partner, and we've been together 23 years. But after about 2 weeks of hanging out with him, we weren't dating yet, but about 2 weeks after hanging out with him, he made me promise that I would never ever do heroin again because I almost died in front of him. And I came to with him sitting next to me on the floor, and he was sobbing. And he said to me, I thought you were going to die on me. Because for whatever reason, like from the instant he saw me, he knew that we were going to be together. That's just the way he felt, you know. And 23 years later, like we're still together. So you knew something. But he saved my life up in Spokane, and I saved his because he was on his own destruction course with alcohol. And he quit drinking after he met me. Like he was in a drunken stupor on the ground the day he met me and raised his head off the ground and said, "Hey, you're cute." And I told him he was disgusting and not to talk to me, and kept on walking. And I didn't see him for 2 months, and the next time I saw him, he was upright and sober. So we saved each other, I guess.
Yeah, sounds like it.
That's our fairy tale. But as far as the drugs are concerned, we came back to Portland together. We got clean for a couple of years. We had like a 2-month relapse on alcohol and meth, and then got clean for 4.5, 5 more years after that, after we had our son. And then had another small, like, couple month relapse, and then had our daughter. And then after our daughter, we were clean for a couple more years, and then had a really bad 5-year relapse. Lost both of our youngest kids because of that. And then have just been kind of struggling back and forth, but we've been clean since 2019 now.
Okay. All right.
Off meth, yeah.
That's a long time.
Yeah, we've been clean since 2019 off meth, which is good. It's been good. He doesn't smoke weed, except every once in a while when I like shove it in his face. Come here, you need, because he's like ADHD. I'm like, you need to calm down.
Yeah.
But and he doesn't drink. He hasn't drank, like, I think the last time he drank a beer was at a wedding or anniversary party or something, and that was, God, 2021, something like that. He just doesn't drink. You know, he's like, if I could, if you want me to. I'm like, no, we're good. So, and I drink very occasionally. Like, I think I bought a bottle of wine a month ago. It's just not, like, every once in a while I like to, but other than that, I'm a pothead.
Yeah.
I'm a pothead. I started as a pothead when I was 12. You know, that's when I started smoking pot.
Full circle a little bit.
I'm just a pothead. My mom still smokes weed. You know, she's always smoked weed, and we always used to joke that my mom's gonna be in her rocker at 80 on her front porch with a pot pipe smoking her weed. And the storyline is coming to fruition. She's 70, you know, and she's still in her rocking chair on her front porch smoking weed, you know. So, but yeah, it's a struggle. It's a struggle. The drugs are a struggle, especially in Portland nowadays. Like, it's everywhere. It's just everywhere, and everybody's always asking you, like, if you stop at the local 7-Eleven, hey man, you gotta do this, you gotta do that, you gotta do this. You know, if you look anything close to the part, they'll ask you if you want some or have some. You know, we're always getting, because we do scrap metal for a living.
Okay.
And so, like, half the time we're kind of grungy looking.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
You know, and so my husband's always getting propositioned. And he's like, can we move out of Portland, please? And I'm like, I don't know where to go. We did try to move to the coast this last summer, which turned out incredibly horrid. We are still homeless from trying to move. We left our apartment in July, moved down to the coast to stay with some friends temporarily while we looked for a place to live. And there was nothing. Either it was like $3,000 for a 2-bedroom house, or there's just nothing. There's just nothing. And so, excuse me, they were building some apartments down there that they'd been building for a year. And I talked to my girlfriend who we were staying with down there, and they finally just, like, last month, finished building those apartments. And I just couldn't stay, like, homeless at the coast for that long. There wasn't any place to stay. We were staying in a fifth wheel with a full black water tank, so the whole place smelled like dookie. I mean, it just was not, it wasn't healthy. So we came back here, that and my daughter, my 18-year-old, or my 17-year-old, she's not 18 yet, thank God. My 17-year-old, I had enrolled her in her senior year down there at the coast, and she wasn't doing well. She wasn't doing well at all. And like I said earlier, education has always been primary for me, and so is my kids'. And so we brought her back to Portland to put her back in her school where she was going for the last 2 years. And she'll be graduating this year, where she wouldn't have graduated down at the coast.
Oh, yeah.
She wasn't, like, she she's special ed, and so we haven't had her diagnosed with autism, but we really think that she's on the autism spectrum, and she has some cognitive uh, deficiencies, like uh, cognitive
Mm-hmm.
processing deficiencies, when it comes to like just like social cues, just interacting with people, which is all autism type stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she doesn't get when somebody is annoyed with her or doesn't want to talk to her. She'll just keep talking at you,
Mm-hmm.
which interferes with her bonding with people and making friends with people. And so when she went to this new school, she's either like giving off the wrong cues, or she's just not interfacing with people well. And so she already has friends at the school up here, which made it easier to like do the schoolwork because she's not worried about making new friends.
I
It's
see.
just different. And the school down there was using the huge textbooks. Well, she hasn't had to use textbooks because the school up here prints off all of the. It's just different ways to teach different kids.
Totally.
Different ways to teach different kids. So, but she's passing her classes, which is good. She wasn't passing a single class down at the coast, which is a requirement to graduate. So, her older brother, graduated from the same school up here a few years ago.
Oh, good.
So yeah, we're excited. We went out and bought her her graduation dress over the weekend. So that's cool.
Yeah, it's really exciting.
Yeah, she came home last April from her adoptive home.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she got to come home last April when she was 16-year-old, had come home last winter because she was experiencing some really severe depression, some suicidal ideation. She had been raped by one of her neighbors, and this is my transgender daughter. But when she went for help, nobody believed her. And so she called my mom, and my mom called me, and I called her, and I'm like, if you want me to come get you, I will come get you right now. So I brought her home, and we spent like 2.5 months just like hashing out her childhood, her growing up time, like her feelings towards me, my feelings towards her. Like, it was really beautiful, and then it got really ugly because she's also schizophrenic and she quit taking her meds.
I see. Okay.
And at the end of it, she went to my 16-year-old home, her adoptive home, barged in the door, and took my daughter from her adoptive home and brought her to my home, which is a blessing, but not the right way to do it. So she ended up very angry at me because I wasn't happy with what she had done. She couldn't understand why I wasn't happy with what she had done.
I see.
And ended up leaving, but I ended up with my daughter home because my 16-year-old didn't want to be at her adoptive home anyways. Like, they hadn't wanted to be there. So we got our DHS case opened back up, and we were reevaluated, and my daughter got to stay.
Oh.
So it worked out well because we were clean, we were sober. Like, Brian and I have been through so much counseling and treatment that we're good. It moved up the timetable a couple years, which is, I mean, it's amazing. It's amazing that I get my daughter home now.
Yeah.
It's amazing, and it's the last year has been full of trials and tribulations. I mean, just the last year has just been full of trials and tribulations between Alexandra coming home and leaving, Corey coming home. That's my 20-year-old. He came home first when he turned 18. He left because they were both at the same adoptive home. He turned 18 and said, I'm going home to my mom and my dad. He left them first and came home. And that was a lot of tears and hugs and just, I'm so glad you're home, and lots of growing experiences with him. Because the adoptive family, I would like to talk about this. When kids are taken or removed for whatever reason from their family of origin and placed in another family, that other family should never, ever tell the children negative things about their family of origin. Ever. Whether it's true or false. Because it makes the kids angry. And that's what they did to my kids. They told them false things about us. And my kids were old enough to have memories. Like, my kids were 8 and 11 when they were placed with this family. But the stories and the things that my kids have told us that they were told about us are just horrendous. And it made my kids so angry at these new people that they don't want anything to do with them now. You know what I mean? Like, these new people poured their hearts and souls into my kids, thinking that they were going to love them and cherish them and want to be with them for the rest of their lives. But the end result is they can't stand them.
Interesting.
Because they lied to them. And that's the whole point, is that, yes, you could have poured your heart and soul into them and not said a word about their dad and I. Not said a word about us. Not said anything about, you know why your dad doesn't have any teeth? It's because he was on drugs. Stupid shit like that. You know, why even say anything like that? Just ridiculous lies that don't mean anything. That fill a child's heart full of rage and anger towards them. Because they know the truth about why daddy didn't have teeth. It's because his mom didn't take him to the dentist until he was 14. Because he was an abused child himself. You know? But just love them and cherish them and treat them like they're your own children, not like they're somebody else's. That's all I'd like to say about that. Treat them like they're your own children, not somebody else's. Because then maybe they will love you.
No, I think that's an important thing to say. I wouldn't think about that. I wouldn't have known. But
because Brianna, my daughter, she's torn between loving this other woman and hating her because she knows that she lied to her about so many things.
About her family.
About her family. About the people that she loves the most. Because she knows that she lied. I mean, they were pretty much trying to brainwash them, you know, into not loving us. It's really sad. It's really sad to take a child and make them not want to be with their own family by lying to them. And Brianna was only 8 when she was removed and placed with them. And so she has lost some of her memories. But like, as we're just living, like, I don't sit down and go, this is what happened. We're just living our lives. And her memories are coming back to her as we live our lives. You know what I mean? She'll go, oh, I remember that. Oh, I remember that too. And it's really cool because it's an organic memory process instead of me filling her with memories
Yeah, of like your perspective and
of
your
my perspective.
narrative
She's
and
just getting, I show her pictures and she says, "Oh, I remember him.
oh,
You
okay,
know,
yeah.
what was his name?" You know, that kind of thing, instead of me going, "Yeah, this is Uncle Jim and this happened at this time." She'll go, "Oh, I remember going to that place."
Yeah.
You know, and it's just, it's a different way of forming memories instead of, anyways, that was my rant.
Yeah. No, I think that's an interesting, just parenting perspective in general is
Yeah.
letting your kids decide for themselves
Yeah.
how
Yeah.
they feel and what's
Yeah.
going on around them.
Yeah,
you
I
know?
do that. I do that with religion as well, because I'm not a religious person. I'm a spiritual person.
Mhm.
But I sent all my kids to church, to Sunday school when they're growing up,
Okay.
just so that they can have that, their own perspective on, you know, what the Bible says, and then when they grow up, they can make their own choices as to whether to follow it or not, or what kind of spiritual being they want to be.
Yeah.
You know, my mom sent me to Sunday school, but she was a practicing witch in a witch coven when I was going to Sunday school.
Oh, okay, well.
So, you know, I mean, that was a long, long time ago when we lived out in the gorge. But still, I got my own perspective of what the Bible said. And then I knew about the spirits and everything around me at the same time, and got to make my own choice about who I wanted to be as a spiritual being. And I want my kids to be able to have that same choice.
Yeah.
You know, not this is who you have to be and that's bad. You know, everybody gets their own choice.
Yeah. I like that. I think that's a nice
Yeah.
approach. As far as the being in Portland and having some of those struggles with, you know, how prevalent drugs are in
Yes.
the city.
Yes.
Do you feel things have gotten better or worse since the decriminalization of drugs in Portland?
Oh my God. I did not vote for that. I didn't think it was going to work. And obviously it hasn't. I think things have gotten a lot worse. I frequently will poke my head out my window and say, "Hey guys, there's kids like walking. Can you find yourself a more secluded spot to go smoke your dope?"
Yeah.
You know, I do that quite frequently around where we used to live. They would be like right on the street corner because the cops aren't coming. Cops aren't coming. Why not? You know, nobody has any couth anymore. You know, it's a free for all. Cops aren't coming. Yeah, and a perspective that I was given the other day by a neighbor in a neighborhood that my husband had a conversation with this neighbor about meth versus fentanyl, or the fentanyl pills, whatever. And the neighbor said that meth was worse because fentanyl is just a pill.
Interesting.
That was the neighbor's conclusion.
Yeah.
About the difference between somebody sitting in their car smoking meth or somebody sitting on the corner with foil smoking a pill. Well, it's just a little pill. It's not as bad.
Right, which is a naive perspective.
Which is a naive perspective. It's a very naive perspective because they're both bad, for one. But fentanyl will kill you before you even know you're dead, for one thing. I mean, they're both bad, but they're both bad. It's just across the board, they're both bad. And they both need to be illegal. And there needs to be more help for both than what there is now. I mean, Hooper won't even take, which is the detox center in Northeast Portland by Broadway, off Broadway. They won't even take you in for methamphetamine anymore.
Wow.
For detox.
Because it's too many people who just need help with fentanyl.
Yeah, because meth, you're just supposed to be able to sleep it off. Which isn't necessarily the truth. It's not the truth. Because when I was still using methamphetamine, like my body, after 20 years of shooting, my body had gotten so used to it in its system, like I would get physically ill trying to come off of it.
Yeah.
And not 3 days for it to clear my system, but 10 days for it to clear my system. Because I tried to give a UA after 10 days of being clean off of it, I was still popping dirty. And they're like, well, you must still be using. No, I haven't used in 10 days. I know I haven't used in 10 days. But you're still dirty. Yeah, but it's like 1 nanogram above the cutoff. So like the cutoff was 500 nanograms.
Yeah.
I was 501. It was just enough to register at 10 days. It's still in my system.
Wow.
Because I'm just so saturated with it, and I have some other health problems going on, so that it's just, taking longer for it to process out of my system. But just everything that they're making it with changed along the years.
Yeah.
And so it's not the same that it was in the 90s, where it did only take 3 days. In 2019, it's a lot different than 1994. God, that was so long ago. I feel so old.
Yeah, that's when I was born.
Is that when you were born? God. Yeah.
And kind of towards wrapping things up, what would you share as the most prevalent part of getting clean, and what was able to help you along the way, whether it was rehab or some emotional work or whatever it was?
A lot of the things that help me get clean are my the friendships that I formed while in treatment. My commitment to keep those relationships, because that's one thing that I did some years ago, is make a commitment to myself to keep the relationships that I formed strong. And so, like, once a day, every other day, I make phone calls, or I text, or I FaceTime somebody that I've known for a while. Like, I have friends that I've known for 20 years, girlfriends that I met in treatment 20 years ago that I still talk to, that are really important to me, because I know that they already know where I came from. And in a desperate time, I don't have to explain myself.
Yeah.
Like, I just have to call up and say, I'm hurting right now and I need to talk to you. And they already understand. Like, those relationships are explicitly important to my life. I've lost some of those relationships along the way, which saddens me greatly. Because of addiction, because of death, because of, no offense, because of men. Men get in the way of those relationships a lot. They take those friendships away because they become more important than the friendship. That's another commitment that I made. I don't let my life partner get in the way of those friendships. Like, even though he'll grumble at me every once in a while, you spend too much time with your girlfriends. No, I don't. I don't. I need to spend more time with those girlfriends than I do. I really do. Because it would save me a lot more heartache. It would give me a lot more peace and give me a lot more grace in my life if I spent more time with those girlfriends than I did with him. It really would. I mean, he's a great guy, but his energy is a lot more up here and I'm down here. And so if I spent more time with other women whose energy is down here, then my energy would flow down here better than with his up here.
So keeping those relationships.
Yeah, keeping those relationships.
Mm-hmm.
That's number one in my recovery, is keeping those relationships. Reading, finding something that nourishes me,
Yeah.
nourishes my body, nourishes my spirit. Just being healthy. Some of these things I need to work on a little bit more than others. You know, I love to swim, and so like getting into the pool is
Yeah.
one of the things that I need to work on. I haven't quite gotten there this year, but that is definitely something that helps me stay sober, is just getting in the water, going to the river during the summer, just getting in the water. Water is so cleansing and spiritually beneficial that just getting in the water is important for my program of recovery. And then I do NA meetings on occasion. I don't do them regularly, but I will go with my girlfriends
Yeah.
and stuff, and go to a meeting and just listen to other people's stories, get outside myself.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you had a message for the world, what would it be?
A message for the world. Oh my goodness.
Or a mantra that keeps you going, or anything like that?
There's a couple little ones. One that I tell my kids is just don't give up. Just don't give up.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's really, if you take your own life, you'll never know what's to come.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're giving up. You're giving up. If you run away, you'll never know what's to come. You're giving up. So just don't give up. You know, just stay. Just stay 5 more minutes. Just stay 5 more minutes. Just stay 5 more minutes. Just don't give up. And you're stronger and braver than you think you are.
Yeah.
I like that one. You're stronger and braver than you think you are.
I like that too. Cool. Well, we can wrap it up there. I think that's a nice
cool.
ending thought.
Thanks.
Great, Megan. Thanks for doing that. That was wonderful. Yeah. You can pop the little microphone off.
Cool.
If you'd like.
Cool.
And then